Now we're going to go to some of the best practices. The first one is job descriptions. We mentioned that for a lot of the programs, you really need to have those job descriptions so people know what their jobs are all about. And the parts of a job description would include job title, statement of purpose, the objectives. So overall, what does this job do? Why is it there? Reporting structure, who do they report to? Who do they supervise? What are their responsibilities? In other words, what are their essential functions? What are the qualifications? And what are the work conditions? I do a number of job descriptions all the time. And I have a little checkoff list for the physical part, which is very good for that ADA issue and workers' comp and for new employees. As I said, if you don't like working outside, you're not going to want to be a ground supervisor because all they do is work outside. And if you hate being in an office, you don't want to be an administrator because they're only inside. So I do have sample job descriptions you can share with each other and share together their different patterns. 2 disclaimers I put on job descriptions so that you make sure those job descriptions don't come back to bite you. The essential functions or duties listed below are intended only as an illustration of the various types of work that may be performed. The omission of specific statements of duties does not exclude them from the position if the work is similar and related to a logical assignment to that position. Other duties as assigned is always in every job description. That's what this means. Because a job description is not supposed to be a long list of every task you do. It is the idea to let you know what it's all about and the objectives and the kinds of work you do. And the qualifications, so you know if this is a job that you're interested in. The last one I also do is the job description does not constitute an employment agreement between the employer and the employee. It is used as a guide for personnel action, and it is subject to change by the employer as the needs of the employer and the requirements of the job change. Again, this gives you that at-will rules and regulations so that you are not making a contract with an employee that says because there have been cases where people said, well, they told me I had the job for life. It says so right in the job description. You don't ever want to do that. So you always have those things. Again, that's why you bring in your business attorney to make sure you put things in place. So job descriptions are great for making sure you know what position is all about, what the qualifications are so you know who to hire, so the employees that are applying for the job know what the job is all about. And it helps you in your advertisement. You can use parts of the job description in your advertisement. Use the sections of it and put it right in the advertisement and your recruitment. And it's also great for your interviews. Well, if you know what the job does, then you can figure out an interview question. So here's an example of a human resources director to develop and evaluate and administrate human resource policies and perform recruiting services. So excellent interview questions, and interview questions need to be fair and equitable and about the job, not about whether you have children or not and whether you're going to not be at the office or any of those kinds of things. So a good interview question would be, describe a modification you made to a human resources policy. What was the reason? What was the problem? Why did you make the change? Or can you give us an example of a recruitment that was difficult because you knew you weren't going to get a lot of applicants? How did you go out there and make sure you got enough applicants? Their job was about recruitment and policies. So you ask interview questions about recruitment and policies, not about what they had to eat yesterday. You can imagine what some people ask in interview questions. The other thing that is great for the job description, it's perfect for training and development. You know what the career paths are. So if you have a business analyst 1, 2, and 3, the job description is going to be different what they do. And so a business analyst 1 can look at the 2, see what else they have to get for training or education to move up and get a promotion. So again, always good for, important for your organization. It's also important to develop equitable, competitive types of positions. Here we come back to that classification and compensation. We use a factor system that goes into about 4 categories: experience, education and training, supervisory and fiscal responsibilities, mental and physical health, location, physical demand, environment of the job. If we rate 2 jobs the same number of points for all of those categories, even though they're 2 different jobs, they both got 300 points, they should be paid the same. That's called equitable payment. And that's what I do when I do classification and compensation studies. I'm not going to go into any more detail about that because those are big projects. And you want to make sure that the job description is legal. It helps you with those federal laws that we just talked about, such as the Fair Labor Standards Act, the ADA, the civil rights, the age discrimination. By making sure there's none of those improper language in your job description, then it helps you to do a fair and equitable process when you're recruiting and a fair and equitable process when you're working with your employees. So that is always very important. And a job description is great if you have a problem employee. So I had not an eye doctor's office, but a veterinarian's office. She had a veterinary assistant, and she calls me up and had done her job description. She says she's not working out, she's not doing this, she's not. I said, well, what did you tell her in her letter about her job description? What letter? Well, do a letter of appointment so they know, and you give them the job description. And the job description was very important for them to show up because they only did the surgeries on one day. Can't do surgery without a vet assistant. The law says you can't. I didn't know that, but that's what I found out. So I said, the job description says you have to do that. And if she's not showing up and she's not handling the things that you listed in your job description, you can write her up for poor performance and you can fire her. So it's very helpful for you to keep track of those things. And then you have a legal firing. Of course, they can always sue you, and then you call the attorneys because everybody sues. And I've worked with a lot of different companies and groups of people, and they say, well, this is what happened. I said, well, you don't need me anymore. You need an attorney. This went way too far. You should have called me a long time ago. And the attorneys say the same thing. You should have called me a long time ago. So they have to fix up those things. So that's importance of job descriptions.